I wanted to make a quick video based on some issues that students have had in the past with some of the Chapter 5 problems. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to do the homework. And what I want to address now is not each problem individually, but a couple of the problems that might have caused you some issues. Looking first at problem 5-6, letter B. Many people have a problem understanding what bi-monthly means. They incorrectly think that that means twice a month. That means every other month. Perhaps the best way to think about that is if you got paid bi-weekly, that means you get paid every other week, twice a month, more or less, if you got paid bi-weekly. So bi-monthly would mean you would get paid every other month if it's talking about pay. So bi-monthly, the N for each year would be 6. Because we're still talking about 5 years, then your N is going to be 30 for bi-monthly. Also, you have to remember in determining N, it's not so much how many years, but how many time periods. That is, the years did not change. It is still 5 years, but the number of time periods would be 30. Likewise, with the interest on the I, you will divide the annual stated rate. In this case, it is 6%. Divide that by the number of times per year that it is being compounded. And so if it is bi-monthly, we already said that's 6 times per year. So you will divide, in this case, the 6% by 6 to give you 1. There is no need to do a cash flow timeline for every single part of number 5-6. You can if you want to, but if you do one timeline, that's probably sufficient. Problem number 11, one of the key phrases there that people miss is in the 3rd year. That is different from in 3 years. So the way to approach this problem, this is actually a very intriguing problem. If you ask me, I would have put it at problem number, 70 something instead of number 11. But it actually, of course, has 2 questions. And the first question is how much interest is earned in the 3rd year. And so the way to calculate that will be to determine the total amount that is in the account after 3 years and turn right around and calculate the total amount, that is the future value, after 2 years. And then take that difference. And the only reason that there is a difference is due to the amount of interest earned in the 3rd year. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Then the next part of the problem says how much of that interest that you just found was due to compounding interest and how much was due to simple interest. So here you go back to what I call old school, and remember that simple interest is capital I equals PRT. And so for this, the principal is what, 10,000? The interest rate is 11%. Make sure you put it as 0.11, and the time is 3. Turn right around, do it again, but time is 2, and then take that difference. And that will tell you how much simple interest was earned after, in the 3rd year. Okay? Then take those 2 different interests, the compounding interest in the 3rd year and the simple interest in the 3rd year. Subtract those 2. That will tell you how much of the interest in the 3rd year was earned due to compounding. If my rambling lost you a little bit, let me move the camera so have a little patience with me, and I'll show you what I was talking about, if I can. The first thing that I said was to ask what is the future values after 3 years and after 2 years, okay? And so down here, here's my timeline. Here's the timeline up here. Here's my grid. And so N is 3, 11%. The present value was 10,000, of course, negative, no payments. And so this is my future value after 3 years. Here is my future value after 2 years. When you subtract the difference between these two, this would be the amount of interest earned in the third year due to the compounding. Over here is the old school, I'm sure you did this back in algebra, of simple interest. So I equals PRT, here are the values. You get $3,300 was the amount of interest earned after 3 years. $2,200 would be the amount of interest earned after 2 years. Subtracting these two, which is what I'm showing here, you would get $1,100. So these two values in green are the interest that you would earn in the third year. Simple compounding. Taking the difference between those two, you would get that the amount of interest you earn due to the compounding effect is $255.31. Okay, so take another look at that. Again, also here's the formula for finding the future value. Okay, and note all the question marks that I've got. I put those initially to say this is what I'm trying to find. And likewise down here, question marks. Okay. Another problem that people have had that we addressed in the face-to-face class and I've addressed over the years would be number 28. Number 28 certainly seemed like a very easy problem, and it is. Okay, don't get me wrong on this one. It's an easy problem where you're comparing two different options. That is the option of taking $100,000 today or waiting and taking $300,000 in the future. In this case, after 13 years. Now, for whatever reason, most people want to incorrectly take the $100,000 and they want to compound it at 11% for 13 years and then compare the two future values. That is incorrect. You cannot do that. I mean, you can, but I'll count it wrong. And the reason is the methodology says that you're making the decision today. So if you're making the decision today, you've got the $100,000 sitting there today, and what you want to do is you want to discount back the $300,000 to the present, okay, at a rate of 11%. So again, trying to show that work here. The $100,000 you don't do anything with initially, okay? Nothing. Just let it kind of sit there. And I'm going to take the future value of $300,000, 13 years, discounted back at 11%, and I want to find its present value. Okay, here's my formula. And again, initially here, you see I made a small mistake there. Bear with me. And I get this present value. So this number in red, okay, this present value, and of course down here, I'm showing the work that I would have done with the calculator, has absolutely nothing to do with the $100,000. It is only the $300,000 discounted back 13 years at 11%. But now I compare the $77,254 and change to the $100,000. This is money that I'm wanting to get, all right? So I want the larger dollar amount in today's dollars. That is the present value. And so since 100,000 is more than 77,254, the best choice is to accept the $100,000 today. And again, I've got my little note here just to remind you again, the problem is wrong if you find the future value of 100,000 and compare that to 300,000. Don't do that, okay? Right now, it might not make much sense to you, but in the near future, it will, okay? One more problem before I go, and that is going to be number 35, finding the effective annual rate. You have the APR, that's the stated rate, and let me look at the actual problem here. Number 35 says that you could borrow from a bank at 13% compounded annually. Here we want to compare apples with apples. That is, we need to convert the 12%, which is compounded monthly, into an effective annual rate so that we could compare it with the 13%. So to do that, we use the EAR formula. And I'm going to show that to you. Hopefully you have some work that is similar to this. And again, perhaps I should have cleaned it up a little bit for you, but I'm hoping that you can see what's going on here. The APR that was given was 12%. It is compounded monthly, and so the M is 12. Once you begin to turn the crank, so to speak, on the formula and using your calculator, we get that the 12% has an effective rate of 12.68%. Now here, you're wanting to borrow the money, all right? So you want to borrow at the lowest rate. And on the surface, yeah, 12% was lower than 13%. That's a no-brainer. But you can't do it. You cannot compare that yet. You have to get the EAR. We just did that. But now we compare the 12.68% to the 13%. And still, we see that the 12% is the lower rate because I can say 12.68% is smaller than the 13%, and so you do borrow at the 12%. So hopefully that helped a little bit. Go back and make any corrections. If you have any other questions for me, either email me, and if you want to Skype, that's fine. Give me a call, however you want to communicate, and I'll answer your further questions on Chapter 5. And I'll do the same thing in just maybe this time tomorrow or something on Chapter 6.